Everybody, today is Saturday, April the 22nd, 2023. And if you're seeing this, chances are I am already settling in at my campsite in Big Bend National Park. So, a few days ago, I decided to look and see if there were any available sites in Big Bend National Park. For those of you who are familiar with traveling, you know that generally to check into a popular place during a popular time is quite difficult. For whatever reason, whenever I am in dire need of, let's call it peace. Whenever I'm in dire need of peace and I think about going to a peaceful place, more often than not, I'm basically presented with the opportunity to enjoy that peace. So a few days ago, I decided to hope that I could enjoy some peace, that I might even deserve it. Hoped, but I didn't take it for granted. And I checked out the website for reservations at the campgrounds. And sure enough, there was a site, not just any site. If you look back to last year in these clips, you'll see that I stayed at the last campsite, practically the last campsite in the loop, where I could see the little valley where the black bears often migrate back and forth. Well, this time I got my other favorite place that's tied for first with that favorite place, and that is the very first site in the basin. Site number one is pretty amazing. And it's amazing for me in particular because it's the first site. And the first site allows me to drive in and out late at night or early in the morning and not disturb hardly anybody, because I'll be pulling into the very first site upon my return. And that's very helpful. It's helpful because I don't like to think of myself as disturbing other people. As a child, I probably only focused on disturbing other people. Rattling a rattle, banging on things. You know, as a child, we've all done childish things, crying out for some kind of attention, be it for the need of nourishment or because of the perceived need of entertainment. Many of us right now have only been entertained for most of our lives. We have never taken in the beauty of nature as our source of entertainment. Some of us enjoy that regularly and also enjoy sharing that experience with one another. So, why Big Bend? The place where I like to go, it's really one of the more peaceful places that I can go to because I can literally pick a spot and walk off the beaten path and possibly be the only person within miles. This doesn't come without risk. If you watch all of the clips on this channel, you'll see there are scorpions, snakes, venomous snakes. There are all kinds of things that are out there, including plant life, that can tear your flesh. And then you move up the ranks to the animal kingdom, all the way through the human species. There are risks when it comes to visiting this place. There are risks when it comes to visiting any place. The amount of peace that we can bring to surround ourselves with, even under the midst of fire, even under the threat of storms, we are still no match for what nature has to show to us. So as I drive this super long stretch of highway, passing the Indian paintbrushes, the yellow flowers, the blue bonnets, and all of the other springtime flowers that I'm seeing in the median, I'm also seeing a good amount of evidence that we were here shaking things up. Tires on the highway, bottles on the highway, bags, paper bags on the highway, cardboard boxes on the highway. So I see all of this and I try to report it back on this channel. I used to have social media where I try to just showcase the good stuff. Someone pointed out to me at one point that even me going to visit these places is leaving behind the destruction that I so much do not want to see. And this is absolutely true. So far today, I've hit one butterfly. I've got quite a way to go, so there's no telling what else might become a casualty of my journey that I'm embarking on. But the one thing that I know for certain is that I am doing my best to clean up the mess that I'm making. So if I go to a place and I consume something that has a wrapper that will not disintegrate, I should feel obligated to understand that I'm leaving behind things for people to pick up. Recently on the news channels, there was a story, and the story talked about a couple with a child who were on an airplane, and the child was throwing something around, let's say Cheerios or some cereal. They were throwing all their food around because here in this nation, for whatever reason, when we get onto the topic of parenting, we don't seem to think twice about the fact that someone was playing with their food, a resource that not everybody has. So anyway, the story talks about this child threw their cereal all over the cabin, and the airline assistant was called to the mess. The parents wanted help picking up the mess. The airline assistant suggested that all of that food that they were throwing around was really their mess, and they needed to clean up after that mess. One of the parents happens to be well known. They wrote something on their social media page that said the airline assistants, their job was to help me pick up my food, pick up my child's food, pick up my child's mess, pick up the airplane's cabin. On their social media feed, there was an amount of backlash because most of us are undecided. What logic would you apply if you were the parent, if you were the child, if you were the airline assistant, if you were the CEO of the airline? What if you were tasked with raising responsible individuals in this nation? What if your only task was to raise a responsible individual who would clean up after themselves and, better yet, know the difference between what is disruptive and what is tangibly improving a situation based on the circumstances of our journey? We're already here. The act of consumption, it's a guarantee. It's guaranteed in most cases that every day we are going to consume something, even if it's just the space that we occupy. But many of us aren't grateful for it, and so to sit in a place alone and devoid of life as we know it, devoid of noise, like on the television, it's foreign. It's foreign to be presented with a question about whose mess was it anyway? Because almost every one of us has been tasked with never really participating in the cleanup ourselves. Everything that we deal with now, including the act of life and death, is dealt with by some person who specializes in that task. That's why the parent thought that it was the airline assistant's job to pick up after the messy cabin. He might not be wrong. The assistant is there to assist. Otherwise, our instruction would be such that all of us would get on a plane, and the moment it's time to disembark, we'd all just throw our shit everywhere. Just like I'm seeing on the road right now. Plastic cups, plastic bags, foil, plastic lids, bags for fertilizer, clear bags from the gas stations. I might sound a little bit upset because my job is simply this. My job is to explain to you, the viewer, on this platform, why it's important for us to share this type of content. That's my only job. As with much of history in my line, unbeknownst to me, somebody reached out asking for help that has to do with technology, for help with something that has to do with technology. I am using technology to share with you about how I myself am consuming technology. It's a cycle. So now we have to look at what we've got. We've got people bringing children into the world who they themselves already act like children by trying to force responsibility on somebody else when it's all of our fault. We would all do better if we all knew better. Let me say that again. We would all do better if we all knew better. So that's why I go to Big Bend. I go to Big Bend because that's where I find peace. There used to be no destroyed environments. There used to only be a desert with mountains and a river that had all of the wildlife for each of those ecosystems. And it was all at least in precarious balance, seemingly. And then we got to another era. As I'm cresting this hill, seeing the haze on the horizon, I can only wonder how long it will be before we all stop thinking of this all as vacation. The yellow wildflowers here are amazing, and there's some purple flowers. I don't even know how to describe it. The yellow wildflowers, it's just like a bed of yellow flowers blowing in the breeze. The purple flowers are like fingers of purple. They're probably at least as long as fingers. They're purple. They're definitely not bluebonnets, but they're like the other flower that we're probably in this region used to seeing when the bluebonnets emerge. They're beautiful. A lot of what we as a species think of as beauty, some of it we overlook so hastily because we're fascinated by the entertainment versions of the beauty that we see. The tricky thing about watching and staring at beauty for too long is we never might see the beast as it approaches from the periphery, from just out of our peripheral vision. The speed limit was about 5 miles faster than what I was going, so wanted to adjust that cruise control to participate in the flow of traffic. Have you ever been in those situations where somebody gets in the fast lane and slows down and just keeps slowing down to control who's behind them? Some people do that and speed up if they think someone's going too fast, too slow in front of them. But with an attitude that's reckless, throwing stuff all over the cockpit. All in all, the only thing that I wanted to say about why I'm going to Big Bend is because you hear what I'm talking about. You see it yourself. My question to you is, do you go into those places that you long to be in? Do you help to showcase the beauty of those places in a way that will only bring those who want to appreciate that? Or do you carelessly show only one version? Every bit of what we're able to do is a choice. And sometimes we choose to work with one another, and sometimes we choose to not help one another. The difference can seem almost convoluted, because not helping one another can mean two different things to two different people. For an example, if we were to choose to not help somebody purchase alcohol because they had an issue, substance abuse issue, when it came to alcohol, would we be not helping, or would we be helping? So there are many things to think about when we think about where the haze on the horizon came from, where the plastic bottles strewn all over the world came from. One of those could be yours. They last forever, or for at least as long as we last, if we are fortunate. So here at this point, we're at a crossroads once again. Here at this point, when all hope seems lost, here at this point, I'm still doing it. I'm still giving it all I've got. I'm still passing the gray fox, the road-killed gray fox that somebody didn't see probably because they were too busy being entertained by their music as they're driving these long stretches of highway. I'll tell you what, if we were sitting together on this journey right now, as I'm sure several of you who are watching this have been invited to do, maybe you've even done it yourself. If you were riding along right now, we'd be having such a conversation. Because there's a difference. Now I'm passing by a field of wildflowers. They're real small wildflowers. They're really pretty. Because there's a difference between the truth and entertainment. The biggest difference is one is nourishing, rewarding. The other we should treat everything else as hearsay. If we weren't there in person, we don't really know. Was the child throwing a fit due to the parents? Was the airline assistant were they themselves the one who threw the fit? I've heard of mega pastors married to a spouse who got so upset before the flight that they got themselves and their spouse kicked off the flight. A mega pastor, their wife, kicked off a flight. I wonder what kind of anger it would cause or take to cause that type of a circumstance. I wonder if some people are able to act out of anger, if those monsters aren't also the animals walking around with me, especially when I go to a place to face peace. And I can only wonder, for as long as I live, why some people would go so far out of their way to avoid peace for so long, when that is the number one thing that they needed in order to recover their health. So again, today is Saturday, April the 22nd, 2023. What I wanted to show you was a 7-day transformation. Not just a 7-day vegan challenge, not a 7-day sugar-free cleanse. I want to show you a 7-day transformation. For those of you who have hung through the video for this long, thank you so much. Thank you so much for everyone who is sharing these ideas. Thank you for everyone else who's helping to clean up after the people who are throwing tantrums. It's hard work. It's hard work because the closer we get to recognizing that it's all of us, the more likely we are to be isolated into pockets that were formerly called narcissistic families. I just call it reckless lifestyle. I mean, the choices that we make are either in favor of peace or they are to kill, steal, and destroy. If the objective was to not do those things, to not kill, steal, or destroy, chances are you're doing something a little bit better that was possibly all 100% in the name of creativity. If you're not being creative, you might be sitting down watching shows that are expressing their own creativity, where you'll hear a story told through somebody's perspective. That somebody usually is heavily sponsored with a lot of money to advertise certain things in conjunction with their show. The only thing I want to advertise is that everybody can do better if everybody knew better. We all can do better if only we know better. Paper towels, passing it all up, knowing we can do better. The only thing that I need in my life to do better is to have those opportunities available. And the only way they're going to be available is if somebody makes it rain money. The only way those opportunities are going to be available in this world. I'm not talking about like when we get past all these dimensions of the simulations that we're running in, or whatever it is that anyone wants to call it. I'm talking about in this world right now. The reason to convert our currency system into cashless might even be to discontinue the additional unnecessary printing and minting of more objects that have less value than the beautiful yellow flowers, lavender flowers, beautiful gray fox, the beautiful people with whom we can spend time. All of that printing and minting, and for what? So somebody can retire and have all their routine drinks that they drink in the morning through the drinks they drink in the evening, all coming at the cost of, this is what we're allowed to choose from because this is what we're spending our money on. We can vote all we want, support whatever representatives we want to support, but we're all presented with the same exact choices. Whether we treat our choices as if they are responsible or not. And if our own lineage is being irresponsible, even though we have assistance from everywhere else, if we're lucky, unless we're in a more hostile time frame where people just are fed up. As long as we have assistance, especially if we all recognize that there is some trash that we need to pick up and stop the flow of, as long as we recognize that, I think we can make it through to the next and future generations. Anyway, I could go on and on about these topics. As I said, in order for any widespread change to occur, my only thoughts are that we, as a society, can't have any alternative choices if they're never being presented to us. So on this channel, I try to talk about wellness and conservation using logic, showcasing topics that really are happening in real time in my neck of the woods and in my favorite places to enjoy. While I'm out here enjoying this location, I'll be thinking of all of our loved ones who have gone on before us, all of our loved ones who are here right now, and I'll just be trying to put that positive energy into those clips. I'm so thankful that you've watched all of these videos, understanding that I'm talking about something important, and that I'm trying to, with every fiber of myself, become whatever is needed to represent that topic. And I feel like the conversation just kept getting, what was the word? What is it that they do when they're a filibuster? I felt like it was just a filibuster. Like people tried to talk until someone forgot about what the topic was about. I'm not able to forget what we're talking about here. We're basically talking about peace, love, and all that old school stuff. Until next time, thanks again. Stay tuned.